Right now in the Call of Duty Warzone content creation scene, there are a lot of content creators who are crashing out of Warzone currently. I just got done watching a video from FaZe Swag as he essentially talked about why he is done playing the game for the moment. And in fact, this guy, who is one of the most hardcore COD players ever, is now playing Fortnite. So something has clearly happened in the game to run off a lot of these players. And if you go and watch any of them, they will give you a whole list of reasons of what is wrong with the game, things that need to be changed, and things that need to be fixed in Warzone. And I agree with most of it. And I actually do have a whole Google Doc that I'm looking at right now of reasons for why I left Warzone back in February and March of this year. I stopped playing the game 11 months ago, and after really thinking about it, looking at these reasons, I have to really boil it down to one. And I want to talk about this one reason in particular because I do feel like a lot of these content creators, because they are more hardcore players, they really miss one thing that the casual player really looks for in a game. And as someone who is a self-proclaimed casual player, I played with my friends from Verdansk all the way up until, 10, 11 months ago. I played every night with them for 2 to 3 hours a night, and then when they were done, I might go and grind some camos. I did like to camo grind. They weren't into that, but maybe that makes me a little more hardcore. But what really made me stop playing the game is one major reason. And it's very ironic that this is the reason that I quit playing the game, and a lot of these content creators can't even see it, because for them, playing the game and winning and doing different techniques and guns and stuff and kill races, those are fun, but those sorts of things are for more hardcore players. For someone like me who wants to get on and have fun, the biggest problem that Warzone has is content. And what do I mean by content? Well, actually, I'm talking about a lack of it. There is not enough content in Warzone to keep me interested. And then you mix in the skill-based matchmaking, all the sweatiness, all the garbage that we have to deal with in that game, and it makes for a very toxic relationship between the players, the game, and the developers. What do I mean by content? Well, content to Call of Duty, at least on the Warzone side of things, is, yeah, maybe there's a new map in Resurgence. Well, I'm not a Resurgence player. Okay, that's fine. And for the people who do play Resurgence, you guys got to eat pretty good last year. You had some maps brought back, you had competitive, all that stuff. For people who like to play the other side of the Battle Royale, the bigger maps, we didn't get anything. We got some bunkers that opened up, the power plant that got exploded or something, and then Superstore was added. None of those things were like very good. That's the problem. That's not content. Yeah, those are some small map changes, but that's not really good enough. When you have a game that is stale, and as stale as Warzone has become, adding in a new POI is not enough for a seasonal update. One of the other issues that adds to the staleness of COD is the meta. The meta hits a certain point, a gun becomes the meta, and then they do next to nothing to change it. The RPD from Warzone 2 was the meta for 6 months. That's boring. When I left the game, 2 guns were the meta, and when I played the game again to get this footage, people were still running at least one of those 2 guns. I still watch Warzone content creators in order to keep up with if there have been any like actually good changes to the game or interesting events, that kind of thing. And I believe 6 months ago, however long ago it was it called the D tier? I think it's the H car in real life. The D tier gets added, and that's the gun that everybody has been using since then. I then went and watched a guy named Send It, who I really enjoy. He did a 100 games of Warzone, and in every single game, all people really used was the D tier months later, and it was boring. It was boring then, and it's boring now. Things do not change in terms of the meta, and it's not fun, in my opinion, to use the same 2 guns for 6 months at a time. The other issue is a lack of game modes, a lack of modes and things to do that are more casual, that aren't Battle Royale. I really liked Verdansk. Don't get me wrong, I think most people like Verdansk, and I don't really hate Urzikstan all that much. However, I would love to have actually gotten to explore those maps a little more in more casual settings than Battle Royale. Back in Verdansk, we had some game modes. We had a few different game modes actually. We had Payload, which was a mode where you escorted, it's kind of like war mode, you escorted 2 gigantic trucks from point A to point B, and it was a much more casual friendly mode that you could go in and get a bunch of kills and stuff like that, level up your pass, level up your levels in general. I really liked Payload. I also really liked the Armored Warfare mode, at least a little bit of it anyway, for a little while, where you had the Berthas that you drove around that had guns on them and you could upgrade them and all that stuff, and it was creative and different from the other Battle Royale. 50v50 Clash, which was basically a large-scale team deathmatch on the Battle Royale map. I haven't seen that in a while. In fact, even the events when it comes to holidays haven't been very good either. We have the Christmas event going on, I think right now, where you can land on some Christmas trees, and also Santa's on the train. Whoopie-doo, that was last year as well. The trees have been around for years. It's nothing new. And if you play multiplayer, especially when I played multiplayer in Modern Warfare 3, the events in multiplayer were really cool. I really liked the Space Marine, the 40K Space Marine event. I really liked the 420 racing event, the obstacle course. That was really cool. They did a lot of cool stuff in the multiplayer, and Warzone just sat dry, at least on the big map. No ranked, really, no nothing like that, and even if you did play ranked, it's going to be full of cheaters anyway, but we didn't get any cool side modes. I think it would have been interesting, at the very least, if they would have maybe done something, let's say for Valentine's Day, other than having a bundle in the store. Valentine's Day, making a Battle Royale variant that's only crossbows and bows. It would have been stupid and kind of annoying, but for a one-day event, that's kind of neat. Remember the April Fool's stuff? I think they may have done that in Warzone 3, but I also quit playing by then, where guns had like crazy amounts of recoil where they could launch you, or if you shot somebody, their bodies would fly across the map. Stuff like that is fun, and it gets people to play because they want to see the cool new thing. Trust me, Fortnite does this all the time. Guess what game I've been playing? It's Marvel Rivals, actually. But I don't want to just complain and talk about why I left. Obviously, content is king. Every content creator should know that. And if you're talking about players leaving, casual players leaving the game, the player base that COD is trying to cater to, the casuals, content is the thing that they should be making. How do they do that? Well, here's how I think you fix Warzone. And this is outside of the scope of having better servers, better tick rates, better anti-cheat. Those are all things that need to be in the game, absolutely. But from a person who is just bored, here's how you fix it. First things first, what you do is you give Warzone to Raven. You stop integrating games into Warzone. Do not integrate any more mainline Call of Duty games into Warzone, because you guys have proven time and time again that you can't do it, and you can't do it successfully. Every single integration has broken the game, and in the case of Caldera, broken 3 games in the process of integration. So remove it. That is the simplest form of doing it. You make Raven the Warzone developers, the sole Warzone developers. You do not let Sledgehammer, Infinity Ward, or Treyarch get involved in Warzone in any way. You make them relegated to the mainline games, and you make Raven the sole Warzone creators. And you let them control what they put in there, the balancing, all that stuff. And guess what? All of the things will be on one studio, and they will have the opportunity to create whatever they want, events, any of that stuff. And honestly, people might be saying, well, if it's separate, then our stuff won't carry over. I think that's probably a good thing as well. I don't think that every time a new game comes out, 30 to 40 guns should also be ported over to Warzone. There is so much bloat in Warzone right now that I have a feeling, call this a hunch because they've done it before, that sometime in the future, we are going to get an official Warzone 3 or Warzone 4.0 where they completely remove every single game, every single skin and character, and wipe the slate clean just like they did with Warzone 2.0 and restart the whole thing, because it is almost impossible to balance for 200 some odd weapons. And we know it's impossible to balance because there are 200 some odd weapons and only 2 of them are worth using. That's how it's always been. and it sucks. However, if you make Raven the sole creator, and if you make it to where that there are maybe, let's say, 30 to 40 weapons in total, then Raven can control the rate at which they release weapons. And of course, this is removing any pressure from Activision. We all know that Activision will be down Raven's throat if they were to do this, and it would ruin the entire experience anyway. But this is a perfect world scenario I'm trying to set up here. Let's say Raven introduces, let's say, 30 to 40 guns. They can go through and balance and control for all of those weapons how they see fit. And then on top of that, they can add weapons at whatever pace they want to. So that way they have a smaller roster to deal from, and they're not constantly adding in huge batches of weapons that they then have to try and balance for later on, and, you know, breaking the game in the process. In my opinion, this would also open up the rest of the team to create content, new maps, new modes, new store bundles, I guess, or whatever they want to do. And then that way things can progress and develop independently of the mainline games and not influence Warzone in such drastic ways. Because right now Warzone works on a principle of 2 steps forward, 25 steps back, and it has grown to be an absolute nightmare for the community. It is like being in an abusive relationship that the only way you can win is by leaving. And that's what I did. I stopped playing Warzone except to get some footage here. In the background, I went back to play it for this. It was a miserable time. I did not have a good time doing it. And it hasn't really gotten any better. It's the same exact game and the same exact map. It's actually a worse map than when I left 10, 11 months ago. The version of Urzikstan that I'm playing on here is a worse version of Urzikstan than what I played on last time, because the game is absolutely slower in many ways. The climbing of ladders is slower because they removed the perks. There's no overkill. Apparently, in the time that I was playing, loadouts were broken again. You can't zip line as fast as you were. Old bugs that were broken in Urzikstan back on launch are still in the game. There is the bug where if you jump onto a zip line and go down it, it'll slam you into the ground and kill you instantly. You don't have any way of getting over it. I think I might even have that on the footage. I'll show it. It's bad. It is in a bad state. I wanted to throw my opinion out there, someone who's played a lot of this game. Really wanted to put out my perspective on why I quit playing. Multiplayer is getting a ton of content. If I owned Black Ops 6, I'd be playing multiplayer like crazy. I wouldn't even be touching Warzone, to be honest. Zombies is pretty good this year from what I've seen. The actual like multiplayer itself, there are things to do, things to unlock, you know, game modes that are new, that kind of thing. The maps might be terrible, I'm not sure, but I'm seeing modes and stuff coming. There's a lot more going on in multiplayer than in Warzone, and I know Verdansk is coming, but Verdansk is only a small band-aid to the problem. And I will go try Verdansk again, but once the sort of honeymoon period of Verdansk wears off and you realize, oh, the game itself is just actually bad, Verdansk does not save Warzone. Having consistent content that's new game modes, things for more casual players to do that aren't constant sweat fest, stuff like that, that will bring players back. Anyway, I don't want to rant. I don't want to ramble too much longer. So I will see you guys in the next video. I don't actually know what that is yet, but hopefully it's something soon. I'll see you then.